right?
As far as we can tell, yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Gemini is taking notes.
Yeah,
Gemini. How do you say
li-
it?
Gemini.
little dystopic, no? Because
Is
when
this
the
one of those American things where, like, they say H and
H.
I just say
yeah,
H?
H. That's
yeah,
what we
like
call it.
spelling globalization with a Z or a Z.
I don't want to say Gemini. I
On
feel like
that
one of
note,
the South Delhi Zodiac girls, women.
our discussion today is about the linguistic divide and linguistic politics in India. So, Jay, let's get your opinion. क्या चल रहा है आजकल?
भाई
क्या चल रहा
क्या नहीं चल रहा है ब्रो।
है?
शिवसेना शिवसेना वाले आते हैं, कुछ बिहारियों को पकड़ते हैं, बोलते हैं कि तुम मेरी मराठी नहीं बोल रहे हो, पेल देते हैं। पेलने के बाद उनकी दुकान जला देते हैं, फिर
भाई
बोलते
मेरे
हैं
तो बहुत कॉन्ट्रेरियन ओपिनियन होने वाले हैं इस डिबेट पे।
कि सेम।
सेम क्या, तू तो एंटी शिवसेना, मतलब तेरा तो काफी पॉपुलर पोजीशन ही है कि गलत कर रहे हैं हम सब, और ऑब्वियसली गलत कर भी रहे हैं ऑन सम लेवल, बट
सम लेवल नहीं,
तेरा
सारे लेवल।
काउंटर कहाँ से हो गया भाई? तेरा तो काफी बेसिक बिच पोजीशन है जय।
अबे जय के सारे टेक्स बहुत ही ज्यादा बेसिक होते हैं.
नहीं
जय's
ऐसे
like
तो नहीं, बिल्कुल भी नहीं भाई। आधे से ज्यादा तो इसके वैकी और मैं मानूंगा कॉन्ट्रेरियन किस्म के होते हैं, अनयूजुअल और अनपॉपुलर।
नहीं भाई, बस मेरा उसमें लॉजिक
और
बड़ा
आजकल
सिंपल
मैं इसकी स्टोरीज नोटिस कर रहा हूँ, आजकल बहुत ज्यादा ये सेकुलर दिखने की कोशिश करने लगा है अपने इंस्टाग्राम पे साला। ऐसी स्टोरी डालता है।
है। हाउ इज दैट अ प्रॉब्लम? दैट्स नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम
नॉट अ
एट ऑल।
प्रॉब्लम, इट्स जस्ट एन ऑब्जर्वेशन।
Jay trying to appear.
इट्स अ प्रॉब्लम। चोर की दाढ़ी में तिनका।
Bro, but the funny part is that all my extremely liberal friends think that I'm a pseudo Nazi, and
तो राज है ना।
all of my yeah, yeah
Yeah.
all of my all of my extremely Sanghi friends think that I am a leftist. So I think I'm in the win right now.
Seem like a liberal. I wouldn't. You don't seem like a leftist.
A lot of
Yeah,
people
Jay,
have
you
called me
have
that.
you
There's
have
one guy.
never you have never to any sane mind in the world appeared
Bro,
to be left leaning.
there's this guy who started fighting with me because I started to, like, raise objections with respect to artists being banned in India, and he started calling me a guy who listens to Sufi music and calls
Sufi
the
music
Indian
is
state.
great. Fantastic.
Exactly. So he said something to the extent of that I listen to Sufi music, and I am one of those guys who's totally going to ignore all the atrocities that are being conducted against the Hindus. So I've heard that as well, and I've
Yeah,
also
नहीं, पर ये
yeah, but
आर्टिस्ट वाली भी तो डिबेट काफी हॉटली कंटेस्टेड टॉपिक
yeah,
था न्यूज वगैरह में। I do you guys
exactly.
watch India Today's Democratic Newsroom? They have sorry, yeah, go
no, no,
ahead.
no. Go on. मैं बस ना actually when we do the final push, if uh, if some interruptions happen ना तो footage थोड़ी chaotic हो जाती
That
है.
is that is
So
that was
let's just
that is such
Ivan,
a
you finish what you were saying. जय एक बार इवान को बोलने
yeah.
देते हैं, फिर तू बोलियो, फिर मैं बोलता हूँ. ठीक है?
There's this program that India Today does weekly or bi-weekly sometimes, जहाँ पे प्रीति चौधरी, राजदीप सरदेसाई, गौरव सावंत, ये सारे इनके जो पहले राहुल कंवल और बाकी भी आते थे, कई छोड़ के चले गए हैं तो इंडिया टुडे आई थिंक। तो वो बैठ के देयर इज नो प्रीटेंस ऑफ ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, they sit down and they debate each other, the anchors, based off of their actual political views and inclinations. So it's very entertaining.
Oh,
Like,
right. This reminds me, Ivan, of the show where leaders would go to the channel without a moderator. Uh,
but yes, ये हाँ ऊपर वाला सब देख रहा है आज तक पे।
अच्छा, okay. And
हाँ,
aren't Aaj Tak and India Today the same
yes,
group? Right.
yes.
Okay,
But
yeah.
yeah, a spokesperson or a party, a politician is never going to be as free in their communication, in that they will have to adhere to party lines or ideological lines, right? This
That's
is
fair,
way
yeah.
more fun because it feels way more organic.
Hmm.
But
So you have
ये पाकिस्तानी आर्टिस्ट वाली चीज उस पे आई थी।
right. So you have media persons, but they are giving their unobj unbiased, real views, like what they feel.
Well,
Okay, and
no, they're completely the idea of unbiased is itself an artifice, right? So they are
right.
completely biased, but they're owning their biases,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah,
better.
I think unfiltered would be a better word. Like raw, you're not.
Yes,
See,
but then
after
we
all,
would associate it with that insufferable prick, that DU theater, sorry, Samdesh.
bus volume cut hogi. I don't
हाँ
want to censor this whole thing
हाँ, of
also.
course, of course, of course.
See, my take on Sandesh is he's done one good interview. One good interview.
He may have done several, but I think he may have done several good interviews.
Right.
I think the problem with his interviews is his presence. If he
Hmm.
could just show us the other person and we could just hear them, it would be
Hmm.
fine.
Yeah, I
he's
find it a. Sorry,
he's
sorry.
not.
Yeah, yeah.
अभी मैंने उसको कपिल शर्मा के इंटरव्यू पे देखा ब्रो.
Hmm.
Hi, Kapil.
इंटरव्यू कपिल भाई, एक सेकंड. मेरे को लगता है कि अगर तुम अपने आप को एक से इंडिपेंडेंट जर्नलिस्ट बता रहे हो और तुम कपिल शर्मा के शो पे चले गए जस्ट टू गेट लाइक मोर क्लैप्स एंड मोर मेनस्ट्रीम अटेंशन, आई थिंक दैट्स वेयर योर क्रेडिबिलिटी गोज आउट ऑफ द विंडो. एंड फिर
My
कहीं ना कहीं
problem.
लगता है,
Sorry. Yeah.
कहीं ना कहीं
यार
फिर कहीं ना कहीं
ये
मेरे को
इसमें मैं अच्छा बोल फिर फिनिश कर ले यार.
कहीं ना कहीं मेरे को ऐसा लगने लगता है कि हाँ भाई, अब भाई बहुत कर लिया अंडरग्राउंड कंटेंट, इवन दो इट वाजंट अंडरग्राउंड, बट तो थोड़े टाइम के लिए तो अंडरग्राउंड था ही. बहुत कर
Hmm.
लिया अंडरग्राउंड कंटेंट, अब मेरे को
अंडरग्राउंड तो कुणाल कामरा है.
ये मुझे पैसा कमाना है. ऑनेस्टली पता है ऑफ लेट मेरे को काफी सही लगने लग गया है.
कौन?
कुणाल
कुणाल
कामरा.
कुणाल
कामरा.
कामरा, सतीश.
कामरा ब्रो, नॉट समथिंग ब्रो. कामरा मेरे को काफी ज्यादा सही लगने लग गया आजकल.
यार
मुझे
देखो, इसमें
उसकी
मैं बस ऐड करूंगा, सॉरी इवान. कुणाल
हाँ,
कामरा इज नाउ at least relevant in the Indian public sphere, whether you like it or not. And this is how I assess relevance in India. अगर आप इंडिया में सोशली रेलेवेंट एक पॉइंट के बाद हो तो आपको डेथ थ्रेट आ जाती है. तो उसको वो डेथ थ्रेट्स आ चुकी हैं. तो दैट्स हाउ आई नो दैट ही इज एटलीस्ट मेड सम कंट्रीब्यूशंस.
I don't think
एंड
so. Nupur Sharma is not relevant. She got death threat.
yeah, no, Nupur Sharma is relevant. People,
I don't
I
think so.
might disagree with what she said, but
Right.
she has riled a lot of people, or she's a polarizing figure.
What
Uh,
exactly did she say that led to the death threats?
there was a indication that there is a certain religion which has a certain
Certainly. I hate it when we do this in India.
yeah,
Certain
a,
group, certain
a
minority.
certain.
Well, everybody knows what you're saying, so why not just say it? It seems so intentionally a particular group of people.
She said something about the Prophet Muhammad, which I'm not going to repeat because I don't want a death threat on myself
Oh, so she said
yet.
something so objectionable.
Highly objectionable to some
Highly
people.
objectionable.
So depending on where you are on the
Yeah, we
ideological
should not
spectrum.
be so. Well, you can be, but I suppose there are consequences, I guess.
Yeah. But
But
Jay,
also, the
I'll
law
just
should prevail, right? There must be some legal clarity. I mean, the lawyer can weigh in. Can she say
yeah,
what
Jay.
she said? And if she can say what she said, it doesn't matter if there are death threats. The police and the state should intervene. But in that case, I only followed the aftermath,
यार वो आई
where
थिंक
the state seemed to cover as well.
आई थिंक सुप्रीम कोर्ट का कुछ ऐसे ऑर्डर आया था उसके खिलाफ. ऑर्डर आई थी, जजमेंट आया था, इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग.
Supreme Court.
एंड उसमें उसमें उन्होंने बोला था उसको, दे एक्यूज्ड हर ऑफ लाइक डिस्टर्बिंग द पब्लिक
Mm,
पीस बाय राइलिंग अप द सेंटिमेंट्स. एंड जो हमारा फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन वाला वो भी है, क्या कहते हैं, राइट इन द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आर्टिकल 19 में, उसमें अगेन व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज एक्सट्रीमली जेनेरिक. सबको पता है ये बात है. उसमें रीजनेबल रिस्ट्रिक्शंस आती हैं और रीजनेबल रिस्ट्रिक्शंस में बोला जाता है कि पब्लिक ऑर्डर को आप नहीं, उसका उल्लंघन आप नहीं कर सकते, और अगर आप कर रहे हैं तो फिर आपको अकाउंटेबल होल्ड करा जाएगा.
Yeah,
तो
I
अगेन इट्स
think just sorry to cut you off. I just think that with Nupur Sharma, the whole situation became so related to what happened in the Udaipur issue, right? That the tailor got murdered, that it became all that much more polarizing. So I mean, I would, if I had a dollar every time some Indian politician said something controversial about Islam, I would, be a millionaire right now. But the issue, I think, also became the Kanhaiya Lal murder. I think this issue is also relevant because I think we have that movie coming up, the Udaipur Files, which in itself has become a controversial issue. But I do think that she will eventually become one of those names that even the BJP will have to sort of distance themselves from. Like, they will not own up the radicalness because BJP has been in power for a long time. They
They
also
already
now
have. They already distanced themselves as soon as that thing happened, and she
Yeah,
wasn't relevant enough for there to be. It's always a calculation, I think, in terms of can they do without this person? Is this person too much of an inconvenience? In that
right,
case, she didn't bring enough to the table at all, so she was totally expendable. It's not an ideal.
right,
It's there's no integrity there in these transactive sort of measures, I think.
right. Jay, you want to say
See,
something?
I think another reason why the BJP distance itself was that around that time BJP was really trying hard to uh, give itself a push towards the uh, more convivial relationships with the Arab world, specifically
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
Saudi Arabia and all. And with respect to such
Kuwait as
statements,
well.
yeah, with respect to such statements,
Really
it
had.
wouldn't sit well because I feel there are a lot of other things which the pan-Muslim world has ignored about the present
That's true.
establishment, and
That's
one
true.
thing that they would definitely not ignore is, something so integral to their ideology. So from that, basically, इतने बड़े hypocrites are. They're okay with the oppression happening. They're okay with bombs falling. But like if anyone says anything about this particular religion and people associated with that religion, they lose their mind.
Well,
So
I don't know if I agree. I mean, abusing the Prophet is quite a direct attack on Islam and its
of course,
foundation, right?
of course, Mhm.
So it has a symbolic. Uh,
That's what that's what I'm saying.
yes, no, and no, that's what I'm saying. But the bombs falling and conflicts
Mhm.
are strategic interests.
Fair
One
enough.
Muslim country is not a representation of Islam in its truest sense in the way that Prophet is. So the Prophet will override that. I don't think it's fair to say that they're okay with, yes, because that is less important in the context of Islam, frankly. You can't.
Uh, मैं एक्चुअली इवान से काफी ज्यादा अग्री करता हूँ इस बात पे भी बिकॉज जय आई जस्ट आल्सो वांट टू ऐड दैट सी योर स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी is so like Machiavellian for the lack of a better word that you know we just try to isolate, say for example Pakistan. We know that Pakistan has a certain relationship with Islam or claims to have a
No, no.
relationship with Islam. So how does India justify our anti-Pakistan stance and make it not anti-Islamic? So we justify that by saying that we have a very good relationship with the Gulf, and we all know what the dominant faith is in the Gulf. And not only with the Gulf, हमें तो ये भी पता है कि गल्फ अरब नेशंस मोनार्कीज और ईरान कितने बिटर राइवल्स हैं. We even try to maintain a balancing act with Iran. So I think the only quote unquote Islamic question, I'll just finish up and tell you, the only quote unquote Islamic countries that India has real beef with is a Pakistan, and now after this incident, to a very small diplomatic extent, Turkey and Azerbaijan. That those are the only three countries that we have even said things against. So I think we are trying to do a very big balancing act with the Muslim world, which is important. I mean, let's be real. We have a major population from that faith in India, and the OIC controls important strategic interests in the world. तो मतलब ये बैलेंसिंग एक्ट अब बीजेपी अच्छे से समझ गई है. लाइक यू रन द गवर्नमेंट फॉर 10 years, you're not naive. जय.
But मैं वही कह रहा हूँ कि now look at it from this perspective, okay? बाबरी मस्जिद गिरी, ठीक है? बाबरी मस्जिद के बाद मंदिर बन गया वहाँ पे, ठीक है? अब मैं तेरे को बता रहा हूँ जो इंटरनेशनल पर्सपेक्टिव रहा है सरकार का पिछले 11 सालों में, ठीक है? बोलते हैं कि काउ काउ मीट की पर्सपेक्टिव से लोगों को लिंच करा जा रहा है, एंटी मुस्लिम रेटरिक बहुत बढ़ते जा रहा है, एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो कीपिंग ऑल ऑफ दैट ऑन साइड, ठीक है? And then you have another person coming and talking really badly about the prophet, which I think one should never insult anyone's religion. That's my personal opinion. कभी नहीं करना चाहिए क्योंकि मेरे को लगता है कि at some
That's
But I
so
have
rich coming from Jay.
no, I have a question for Jay.
sorry
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 to
I'm just
interrupt, like
yeah
improperly.
yeah
You don't, Jay. I'm willing to bet you don't actually think that's true. People say these things, but you would be perfectly willing to watch the Book of Mormon on Broadway or at London's West End. The world watches that play and laughs at the Mormon faith because some are deemed open to ridicule and others aren't. So when we say, "Oh, we should never disrespect someone's faith," that's not true.
that's I see your perspective, but I think there is a point where I mean, I don't agree with killing people over that, but I can understand why people get riled up, is what I'm trying to say.
So then, I
Yeah.
mean, the this is the $1 million question, right?
Yeah.
To me, the way I understand it, and I really respect Islam for this in terms of how based the Muslims are, frankly.
Same, same.
But they don't tolerate bullshit.
They
They
don't,
don't tolerate.
exactly.
But I will say then, as the social unsaid rule seems to be that if you can retaliate with enough force, then you're not fair game.
Of
So
course.
basically, we're all collectively saying that if you're enough of a threat in return, we won't mess with you.
But again, you have to see.
Hardly seems like a
I
morally,
can I say something? I
yeah.
totally I get that, but a lot of people would accuse the Sangh and the Sangh associated forces of doing the same thing. They'll say that, oh, we're just killing a cow for meat, and you're coming and killing our guys, and
Absolutely,
at a much higher
absolutely,
rate as compared to Kanhaiya Lal. I'm not trying to
absolutely.
justify the two wrongs, but what I'm trying to say, I was coming
No,
to
exactly,
my
and
first
they'd
point
be
exactly.
wrong,
So
right?
I think the Hindus are also exerting that type of power and dominance
Yeah.
right now in the
I think
present political
I think
sense.
it's wrong. I
Yeah.
don't think there should be a climate where
Yeah, of course. So
uh,
coming back to my point, I was saying something very simple. I was saying that there is a lot of things that the present establishment has been accused of for the last 11 years, which are blatantly anti-Muslim. So around that accusation, I don't think the present establishment was okay with having another accusation of being against the core principle of Islam, that is their prophet. So in order to avoid that
that's
stigma,
an
they're like,
American
yeah, in order to
offense.
avoid that, in order to avoid that, they're like, you know what, this is it. This is where we draw a line. उससे पहले जो कुछ भी हो रहा है, like I mentioned all those other things, जो कुछ
Yeah,
भी हो
yeah.
रहा
I
है
mean,
होने दो.
we went
But
down
this is
rabbit
where I
hole.
draw a
But
line.
my point was
Yeah,
simply when Raj was
yeah.
saying that you become relevant when you get death threat. I don't know. I think if you say something offensive enough, if you rile enough feathers, you get a death threat in India. I think just
Yeah,
the concept of having death threats is evidence of a savage society.
yeah, that's
That
fair. Yeah,
exists.
I'll just
Oh, sorry.
finish up. Yeah, I just also wanted to say that
Excuse me.
to add to what Ivan was saying earlier, that we respect a certain line of thought in Islam which comes down very heavily on its critics. In fact, they have guarded the fundamental principles around their religion and the conversations around their religion so well that the moment any Hindu kind of revivalism happens or an attempt to cause any Hindu revivalism happens, you automatically call it the Talibanization of the Hindu faith also. The degree
But
to
to be
which,
fair, to critics of Hindutva, and to I don't know if I disagree. I mean, it depends on how the revival happens, right? Hinduism had a revival in the ninth century with the Bhakti movement, and that was
yeah,
not a Talibanized revival. But you can have a revival which is Talibanized.
yeah.
And so then what would people say? Should they not point it out? If it is the case. I don't have a
And
position on that, but I'm just saying that categorization could be valid.
yeah, I think that, see, this keeps bringing me back to one controversial take that I have. And this is why, in
Yes.
principle,
You guys
uh,
safe on are you guys doing it safe on this podcast now, or is it very
we are experimenting slowly with becoming slightly more controversial. So I have on this
yeah.
podcast advocated why India should openly own more proxies and use them on our interests like Iran does. So I'm a big supporter of the Iranian policy of having uh, proxy states to monitor your interests and all of that. I think it's a force multiplier. Why I'm saying this is because this is relevant to our point about Talibanization of Hindutva, if that is a principle that exists. I'm not using that term. For that, I first need to say that in today's day, how Afghanistan is governed and how West Asia is governed, there are many quote unquote feudal, quote unquote backward tribes for the Western mind, which are very important for governance. So if in today's day a kind of Hindu revivalism is happening, which might be militant, but it is essential for governing India, I don't see the problem of absorbing it in the state apparatus. So, long story short, if you find a more radical version of Hindutva coming up, and now you know that this is the direction in which we are heading as a country. We are more suited to absorb that wave rather than fight it. I don't
Yeah.
know if I made sense, but
He did. I was just laughing at him eating
हल्ली गुल्ली
illegally.
हल्ली गुल्ली
हल्ली गुल्ली. अबे डिनर है क्या तेरा ये?
नहीं नहीं मैं खा चुका हूँ मैं बस लालची हो रहा था
तभी तेरा पेट नहीं कम होता, bro. Oh my God, that thumbs up has been pulled out. Jay, you're like a
So it's different, bro. After halli
yeah.
gulli or any chips, I don't have any.
Jay's like a 2007 Nitin Gadkari, like the chonkier Nitin Gadkari.
That's such an obscure reference.
This can
That's
get us beaten up in Maharashtra. I'll be
नागपुर
another Bihari getting
Yes,
thrashed in
that's a nice
Maharashtra.
segue back to the language debate.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys my unpopular take on this. I was watching some coverage where some journalist had some unwitting MNS Karyakarta lady who fought some local election lost. So, those ones I think are particularly keen to stay relevant through controversy.
Absolutely.
But she was interviewing her और वो उससे कह रही थी कि आप लोग क्यों हिंदी हिंदी करते हैं, ये तो मुस्लिम्स के टाइम की लैंग्वेज है और इन अ मॉडर्न सेंस हिंदी, और हमारी मराठी ज्यादा संस्कृताइज है, तो आपको तो खुश होना चाहिए, आप लोगों को एक्सेप्ट करना चाहिए. और उस तरह से मैंने नहीं सोचा था. और I think the debate is made worse by the reactions of North Indians as well, or outsiders in general. कि वो मतलब आप कोई वीडियो, कोई इसका इंस्टाग्राम रील है, उस पर कोई कमेंट है, हाँ मराठी मेरी और तो नहीं, बट पर jokes aside, I think it's not helpful. This is maybe why Gandhi. So I'm just thinking out loud. So if I'm blabbering, excuse me. Maybe this is why Gandhi talked about an eye for an eye makes the world blind in the Indian context, because Indians have a reactionary streak maybe. तो अगर ऑलरेडी वो लोग डिफेंसिव हो रहे हैं अपने लैंग्वेज के लिए, तो यू आर मेकिंग इट वर्स बाय कसिंग देम आउट एंड berating them. It should come from a place of an acceptance or like an embrace of some sort, even if you do not want to learn Marathi, which it shouldn't be enforced. But I do think that North Indians and other people should do it out of their own accord. You are in someone else's.
Bhai, I can I say something? I'm just saying, sorry to interject, Avan, but I feel that a lot of North Indians who are there in Maharashtra, Karnataka, and all these places, majority of them, I feel, they know the language, they know the basic day-to-day customs.
No, nobody
Nahi,
in
nahi.
Bangalore knows Kannada. What are you
No, bro,
talking
Yeah,
I know a lot of
no
Northern.
guy from Delhi
I
who had
know,
to move to Bangalore for work learned Kannada.
I know a
And in
lot of
fact, I
guys.
don't think they
I know
even
a lot
put
of
the
guys.
effort.
I know a
Yeah,
lot of
they
guys who
don't.
do.
You
I
probably know like two
So
guys.
anecdotally, you may, but largely you have these thousands of IT guys going there, right, and doing jobs. And what is all these controversial videos if not them saying Hindi में बात करो या English में बात करो, हमें नहीं आती कन्नड़ा, which is wrong for Kannadas to Kannadigas. What do you call them? Kannadigas.
Kannadigas,
To
yeah.
bully them, but they don't learn. I don't think they learn.
There are a few cases where they learn, and I actually know a lot of cases where they learn.
Sure,
So
there's maybe an Irishman in China who learns Mandarin. I don't think I don't think that proves anything.
I don't know,
That's an
man.
exception,
I
right?
do
That's
know
not
an
a rule.
Irishman in China who knows Mandarin, actually.
And I do know a Bihari who's our extended relative who knows a lot of Marathi, and he had a very interesting take to it. He's like, "अरे ये तो एकदम भोजपुरी जैसी है." So like if we start looking at languages like that and start drawing similarities, then it would be much more easier. And coming back to my first
Yeah.
point was
Right.
that Ivan, there's a lot of relevance to the point that why Hindi is associated with the Muslims, specifically down south, is because Hindi was the language that was spoken mostly by the people from the Delhi Sultanate and then the Mughal Empire. So it was always associated with Islam, and that is why there is another sense of resistance towards that. That is one
Correct.
of the aspects of resistance because
That's what that lady was saying,
yes,
and I thought
yes,
that
yes.
was an interesting way to look at it.
Yes, because I mean, down south as well, the Muslim kingdoms were associated with breaking temples and a lot of violence and
No, yes, that, but also the language, the fact that they have Dakhni in Hyderabad or former Vijayanagar sort of territory.
even in Bangalore, like
Yeah,
Dakhini is
yeah.
Dakhini. It's
That was
crazy.
also part of former Vijayanagar, wasn't it?
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
And it's outsider's language. They're not wrong about that.
absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to add to this that इसमें ना फिर एक इवान की भी बात सही है that force you can't force learning of a language, but if you want to be absorptive to a culture that you move to, or you want to like fuse your identity a little bit, then I think you should at least make the basic efforts of knowing the basics of a language. For example, and this is a mandate, for example, in the All India services also, right? A Bihari from the IAS gets allotted the Karnataka cadre, he will learn Kannada eventually. So that's part of the reason why you stay in touch with the local administration, the local politics, blah blah blah. Having said that, I do think that obviously mob lynchings and attacks based on language are fundamentally very extreme. But if we
I
want
think
to
mob
fight,
lynching on any topic in any form is a symptom of a savage society, right? Cause, but the fact that there is a mob lynching it is evidence of a savage society,
that is fair.
I think.
And regardless of community, religion, I think if you can also draw mobs to attack people, which happens so much in the subcontinent, whether it's India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, the fact that we are so much more similar to each other than we realize, it's an issue. I just wanted to end at the note that there is a philosophical touch to it also, and I don't want to get deeper than my intelligence. I don't want to bite more than I can chew. But there is an erasure anxiety with a erasure of your language, and that is where I think the Kannadikas and the Tamils are slightly justified with an quote unquote invasion of outsiders, as they describe it, is that they feel that whoever gets to dominate the linguistic debate is the one who will be remembered. And this is I think a primary driving force of that anxiety, which people don't say as much, but I feel like this is a factor that sort of plays a role here. Jay.
The funny part thing is that the state which actually involved itself in the linguistic wars was actually Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh was the state which started all of this under Shri Malu. And after his protests, you had the whole linguistic commissions coming up and Nehru getting personally involved in the whole thing. And then there was that committee. I'm forgetting the committee's name. It was JAV or something, if I'm not wrong. And that committee basically started dividing states on the basis of linguistics. And mind you, in the Indian subcontinent, language is such a big issue. It's such a controversial issue that it has not only caused a whole civil war in Sri Lanka, it has caused the breakage of Pakistan, and it has also started one of the bloodiest insurgencies that India has ever seen with respect to the Punjab insurgency. Let's not forget that the whole Punjabi Suba movement was a movement which was born out of the idea that the Punjabi language should not be incorporated in the wider realm of Hindi. So all of these issues have they have to be treated in a very sensitive manner where the parties which feel threatened and feel isolated, they should not be insulted for expressing the need to ensure that their language survives, or through their language their civilizational identity survives.
Ivan, yes.
Yeah. Do I click it again to make the hand go away? Or
Yeah.
No,
if
I
I
think if you start talking, it'll automatically realize that you're
No, no, no,
changing
uh,
no.
your tone.
You can
yeah,
click it.
yeah. No, he's right. There was a notice that came on. It will be lowered. I think there's what we talked about, and what my position is the sensitive and maybe the more empathetic position on the language debate. But there's a difference between doing at a state level for a nation to do the kinder thing or the more reasonable thing. And you look at how much of an impediment a divided society is for any kind of progress. And I mean, a good example is our adjacent neighbor, China, and their forced homogenization of Han culture. I do think that it would be beneficial for India to, through just brute force, It doesn't even matter to me if it's Hindi, or if we all are forced to learn Marathi, or we are all forced to learn Tamil. But one country should have one language. It will help us tremendously in progress. Now, realistically, it's not our fault that the South was, or us being North Indians, that the South is divided into four major distinct languages and cultures. And the north of India, more or less, has as big a region, if not bigger, which speaks Hindi. There are regional languages, but nobody in Haryana or Rajasthan or UP doesn't not speak Hindi, right? So we do have a natural advantage there. A larger part of the country already speaks Hindi. So it's a completely reasonable expectation to say the largest percentage already speaks this language. Let's speak this language. Or we should bite the bullet and say, let's just kill all languages and all learn English. Would be, of course, politically an even bigger suicide, right? Ideologically. So, I mean, as nice as it is, and I'm very respectful and I do want to learn local languages, I don't think that it's a reasonable way to run a country. We should have one language, and we've pussyfooted around this issue. And credit where it's due. I mean, I love Nehru anyway. I shouldn't have to say this, but he wasn't in favor of all this bullshit. It was because of these Dravidians that this mess was originally started. No, as far as
Yeah.
I'm.
No, not exactly Dravidians, but yeah, the movement started by the Telugus. Then, with respect to the self-respect movement,
Yeah.
and after the self-respect movement, it spread to other states. Poti Sirimalu is the guy's name, and it was the JVP committee. It was the
Mm.
JVP committee which basically talked about dividing states on linguistic lines.
Yeah, but didn't Nehru also call Periyar like psychotic? He had a
Look.
very unflattering view of Periyar.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think that I will agree and disagree both with what Ivan was saying. I do agree on the note that I think the issues around language debates are a major like law opportunity cost to the progress of a country. We look to China because China is, in at least in the economic might kind of view, a successful example, and even China's worst critic won't deny that today. So if there is a one language one nation kind of approach that can boost the outcomes in a country, I think that would be very beneficial for India. But I, like I said, it's unrealistic in the kind of social democratic polity that we have built this country around. Now I feel like a lot of these language issues, and as a Bihari I have strong opinions about this, a lot of these language issues are actually internal migration issues. And this is a direct consequence of the Union of India and our financial planning models failure to create decentralized job opportunities, that you cause so much internal immigration and immigration. I feel like if we had an economic framework where people would find more and more economic opportunities that could retain them, especially in parts of West Bengal and Bihar, to their homeland and their home village, and set up maybe factories or land ports or riverine ports. If these economic factors were worked upon, say 40, 50 years ago, we would not have been having so much internal migration from Bihar and Bengal. Because not only are these states not progressing economically, they have also, in my view, slightly been let down by the government of India, because they are the ones with highest amount of fertile land plains, and they are lowest in terms of economic productivity today. So the internal migration happened because of these issues, which is why a Hindi speaking Bihari ended up in Tamil Nadu, which is why a Hindi speaking Bihari ended up in Punjab or Karnataka, for that example. And not just Bihar, parts of UP, parts of Bengal. And with unemployment and with unemployment ballooning, I think this is only likely to get worse, because we have like 3 4 major economic centers around the country, and everybody is just like a magnet moving towards those areas instead of creating decentralized opportunities. Sorry for my long yap. Jay, that's good.
You're right, because what happens is that first it's going to start off with a with linguistic resistance, and then this movement's going to take over in the so-called Hindi heartland as well, where a lot of anathema will be generated against such groups, specifically from the eastern parts of the country, be it Purvanchal, Bihar, some parts of Bengal, and it's always going to start with, oh, these guys are coming here, taking away our jobs, and we're left with absolutely nothing, and then the whole replacement theory is again put in place and amalgamated specifically amongst certain political factions which are losing relevance, like in the case of Shiv Sena, MNS coming together. So you're right, actually the whole problem again boils down to basic economics, where certain economic opportunities which were denied to certain parts of the country, and specifically Bihar, Eastern UP, and yeah, it's something that will eventually spiral out of control if not nipped at the bud. Ivan.
Yeah, for me, the cynical bottom line on this whole mess is that it is a mutually beneficial charade for BJP in Bihar and Manse and Shiv Sena in Maharashtra with the municipal elections. Maybe there was communication directly that let's do this. जो लेबरर वगैरह को तुम पीट रहे हो वही वहां जाके वोट करेगा, वो हमारे लिए कर देगा, हम उसके लिए खड़े हो जाएंगे. तुम लोगों की इतनी सीटें कम नहीं होंगी म्युनिसिपल इलेक्शन में जो इनकी बुरी हालत थी शिवसेना और मनसे की. तो maybe it's not deeper than that, and we, by giving it more dignity intellectually, we're kind of falling into that trap.
I totally agree with you.
यार इसमें तो इनफैक्ट आई से एंड इनफैक्ट इवान मेक्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट दैट for radically viewing political forces, these are mutually beneficial trade-offs, right? And it's not like the world has not seen innovative thinking with respect to linguistic debates. There are within the framework in Switzerland, EU, South Africa, there are absorbed provisions to to adjudicate on disputes arising from linguistic diversities. Many of them are very creative. It's not like Indian states can't have a provision coded into, say, the state of one particular state, maybe saying that, okay, in this state, at least we'll make sure that some of the assembly proceedings are only exclusively recorded in Kannada, or maybe, some of the bureaucrats are forced to learn Kannada. You can appear for your central board class 10th examinations in Kannada. These things are not the hardest things for the government of India and the states to implement together. ये सब करने में state bankrupt नहीं हो जाएगा कि एक एक कन्नड़ी का स्कूल में हिंदी और कन्नड़ा साथ में पढ़ा रहे हैं. If we can do that in Delhi and teach Spanish and French in the same school, we can very much improve our financial resources to teach Kannada and Hindi in the same school. The political gains from this issue, however, are unending. आफ्टर ऑल इतनी मुद्दे की लड़ाइयां लड़नी पड़ती हैं, तो ये एक मुद्दा मतलब इनएग्जॉस्टिबल है ना. कन्नड़ा हिंदी स्पीकर्स तो एटलीस्ट 200-300-400 साल तो रहेंगे और आपस में लड़ रहे होंगे. जय, इवान had raised his hand first, so yeah, Ivan.
Yeah, that you make a great point. I mean, arguably Spanish and French are increasingly useless languages, and yet with the privileged yuppie class of India, there's a romanticization of the white man's language. And so every rich kid growing up on Golf Course Road in Gurgaon, like you guys, or some South Delhi neighborhood in Delhi. No, I'm not saying you're a part of the problem, but I'm saying the address that you guys live on, right? I hope I wasn't doxing you. But my point is that's where rich people live in Gurgaon, right? Their parents do nearly everything in their power, consciously and sometimes even unknowingly, to basically intellectually migrate their children to California or somewhere outside of India. And this
Absolutely.
learning French and Spanish is a part of that. And it's
Yeah.
completely an embarrassing exercise because there's less relevance. Arguably, a man from Golf Course Road might benefit more from learning Kannada, and because he eventually will be doing a job in Bangalore, right?
Absolutely. Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you said that, because I still meet a lot of people who quote unquote are Hindi speakers, but they still don't know how to read Devanagari. And this is a stark realization that my father made me have when I was struggling to read Devanagari in my 10th grade. उन्होंने सिर्फ बोला कि तुम्हारी भाई मातृभाषा है, तुम्हें भाई हिंदी पढ़नी नहीं आ रही तो तुम पे लानत है, तुम जाके अंग्रेजी क्यों नहीं बन जाते? Like, that's when I realized कि हमारा emphasis on Western languages, the white man's language, and whatever the white man does, and trying to blindly impersonate that is so much that जो हम लोग को अपना अपना सीखना चाहिए था, जो अपना करना चाहिए था, वो हमने पूरी तरीके से इग्नोर कर दिया. लाइक यू सेड, हमें हमें तेलुगु सीख लेनी चाहिए थी या कन्नड़ा सीख लेनी चाहिए थी, so that, like, say if we go to the tech city of Bangalore or Hyderabad, we are, like, accepted more. And ऐसा
Yeah.
नहीं है कि भाई वहाँ पे ऐसा है कि जैसे, like, I my roommates in university were mostly Telugu guys, and had uh, and they're like one of my closest friends, and I had a very massive knowledge of Telugu movies, and because of that, I had a basic understanding of certain Telugu phrases. And even because of that, even that little effort, like, I won so much goodwill from these guys. कि भाई ये एक अच्छा Northy मिल गया है, अच्छा
Mm.
North Indian मिल गया है, who can, like, actually empathize with us and doesn't, like, shoot us down like that. So, like, even such small things make a difference. I think one of another very wholesome thing that I've seen is from this guy, Raghu Karnad, Girish Karnad's son. He runs The Wire, if I'm not wrong. And उसके Instagram पे मैंने देखा था, इवान का फेवरेट आदमी हूँ. मैंने उसके Instagram पे देखा था, वो कहीं राजस्थान या जयपुर में घूम रहा था, and, like, some random Rajasthani guy approached him, जो कि obviously ठेठ हिंदी speaker था, and he started quoting Kuvempu in front of him in Jaipur. And Kuvempu is, like, one of the greatest poets of Karnataka. तो भाई ऐसे ऐसे भी लोग हैं जो कि अपनी कंट्री की ही भाषाओं में उनके पोएट्स को जाके पढ़ रहे हैं, उनको अंडरस्टैंड कर रहे हैं, उनके कल्चर को अंडरस्टैंड कर रहे हैं. तो उससे पहले कि हमारी कॉन्वर्सेशन या हमारा वार्तालाप ज्यादा सिनिकल हो जाए, मैंने सोचा थोड़े पॉजिटिव एग्जांपल्स भी दे दूं.
Bro said Vartalab unironically.
Yeah, and my that was my initial thought, bro. Said Vartalap, and then my autistic brain kicked in, and I've been thinking, do you guys think that Vartalap was ever a colloquialism, or is it a very formal term? I mean, it obviously sounds to us now formal, now that Sanskrit is a dead language, but was it ever used in a colloquial sense, like Batcheet?
I feel
Or was
like
that word
every
that's lost?
I feel like every generation has a view that our best practices in languages are being eroded over time.
No,
So
I'm not
I
saying
think,
that. I'm just saying, like, is it just a formal term, or was it common in common usage?
yeah,
Like, I've no position.
yeah, I'm not saying that you had that position. I was working
Yeah.
up to an answer. मैं भी इतना बड़ा गैपस्टर बन गया हूं ना, स्ट्रेट अप आंसर दिया नहीं जाता. बट मुझे लगता है कि एक जमाने में ये कलोक्यूलिज्म हुआ होगा, और ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम इरोजन के बाद धीरे धीरे ये एक मेन स्ट्रीम वर्ड बन गया. जैसे अभी लोग आयरॉनिकली गोइंग गोइंग टू अंग्रेजी में गोना बन गया, और अब गोना फिना बन गया. मतलब ऐसे मुझे लगता है एक जमाने में लोगों के लिए फिना भी कॉम्प्लेक्स वर्ड हो जाएगा.
Hmm.
So, but I just wanted to, before I forget this point, I will circle a little bit back to the political debates that we were having. And I feel like sometimes so many of our political issues can be preempted, especially if you want to work seriously in conflict resolution. So much of it can be preempted with good publicity. अब
Hmm.
एक छोटी सी ब्रिज इनॉग्रेट करने दो यूनियन मिनिस्टर पहुंच जाते हैं एमपी एमएलए के साथ. तो मुझे लगता है अगर उतने पब्लिक फंड अगर हम लोग मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कल्चर और एनसीईआरटी पे डाइवर्ट कर दें, और बस एक छोटी हैंडबुक बना दे ऑन प्रेजर्वेशन ऑफ से तमिल, और बोल दे कि ये नेशनली बच्चे पढ़ेंगे एज अ पार्ट ऑफ वन चैप्टर इन इंग्लिश. You read about the Tamil language maybe in English, or some, you just need a small manual, the Ministry of Culture or NCERT to publish it, something like that. Publicize this event, make 2 or 3 union ministers launch this manual, and a large part of the debate will be shunted like immediately. Like there is little substance to something that becomes so polarizing. Ivan, sorry, you had your hand up.
I don't think anybody reads books anymore, broadly speaking. Obviously, this is not a great way to reach to people. I don't think. I think the modes of communication should evolve. The government should be making, instead of pamphlets and monographs or whatever the fuck, they should make reels. They should just make reels. No, I'm not even
No, but
joking.
he's not joking. He's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
I think that will be a much more efficient way to communicate with the younger generation. Well,
But in
that's
fact,
we know
you
you're getting
Ivan, in some ways, you are adding to my point, because then it becomes even a cheaper exercise. Your
correct.
entire
We have
expense
to evolve.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, publishing from the
Oh
government
yeah. I
websites
completely agree with you.
and their
Yeah.
social media handles, and
It's
that will
ironic that
send.
this. Sorry. Yeah.
No. So I'm just saying that will send the message to the Tamil population that no matter what what your politicians are saying, that there is a line of thought in Delhi which cares about the Tamil language, and
Yeah.
beyond that, people can make their own decisions.
To
You
be
know.
fair, I mean, yeah. Before my sort of thoughts drift away again, it's ironic that this government has such a reputation of a propagandist administration, and yet they are so poor at communication.
Facts.
And
Yeah.
Facts, bro.
and
Facts.
yeah, my other point is that to be fair, Modi has consciously made such efforts to connect with a long lost South through this, whether it's symbolic gestures like the Sengol in the new parliament, at its inauguration, or getting people like first Tejasvi Surya, then allying with Pavan Kalyan, and really tapping into those alliances to now the Tamil guy, what's his name? The a former
Uh,
officer,
Annamalai, the ex-IPS officer. Yeah.
Annamalai. Yeah.
Uh,
So they I think they did have a long term focus or plan, but or vision. That's the word. But now I think slightly skeptically, maybe that's a word. Skeptically, is that a word?
yeah,
With
it
some
can be.
skepticism.
I guess it is.
I think that now that Modi is getting old, he is foregoing a lot of those long term visions, and he's less optimistic. In the first term and even at the beginning of the second term, Modi and Shah were a lot more idealistic and very romantic about going into the south. They were very consciously making an effort, even reclaiming Bengal. The way they attacked Didi, they were not successful, and Didi withheld very impressively.
Yeah.
Uh, I now don't see them trying as hard. They're now consolidating whatever they have, because I think now that maybe I'm not being generous to them in my evaluation, but maybe they're thinking with some degree of narcissism कि यार अपनी हमें जब तक जीना है तब तक का सेट कर लो, उसके बाद का हम नहीं सोच सकते अब, शायद.
Yeah, I'll let you. मैं छोटा सा ही इसमें मैं मतलब just to add to what Ivan saying, एक reasonable amount of cynicism, मेरी hypothesis ये है कि हर इंसान में लंबे समय तक इंडिया में पब्लिक लाइफ में रह के एक समय तक cynicism आ जाएगा. चाहे वो if he's even if he's an aspiring politician who's fought some councillor elections, aspiring to be in the legislative assembly, वो खर्चा कर करके चाहे सोशल एक्सपेंसेस हो, अपने कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी में लोग हों, या टिकट के लिए पैसे लगाने हों, वो कर करके शायद उसको 2-3 बार टिकट ना मिले, तो वो आदमी थोड़ा अर्ली स्टेज में सिनिकल हो जाता है. मुझे लगता है मोदी शाह के पॉलिटिकल सक्सेसेस बहुत रैपिड रहे हैं. Like Modi is not somebody who's been used to being out of power. He's been chief minister for so many terms, then PM for so many terms. So for his cynicism to set in, it took that much longer. The
Yeah.
cynicism that Ivan is saying, I think in my life, my first example of that is him going back on the Punjab farm bills. The farm bills that had affected Punjab the most. They were national
Yeah.
bills, but
That's
they were important, and they were very tuned in with the ideology of the BJP. I myself, who has seen the agrarian backwardness, or even to this day of Bihar, I was a big supporter of the farm laws. And that is to the great credit of the Modi Shah government that they actually did it. Yet, for something as futile in comparison to the greater good of this country, which is the Punjab Vidhan Sabha election, a state that you are historically known to lose, you went back on something so major which could have caused reform in the agrarian setup throughout the country. So that is major cynicism. You are letting go of a major policy move for a small Vidhan Sabha election you are set to lose. And this started occurring a lot more. To this day, I feel like Nitish Kumar and Naidu, they have this government by the neck. any day Nitish Kumar meets his old allies or some old friends, this government can get into a lot of anxiety. Uh,
Why don't they? Sorry. Yeah.
no. I'm done. I'm done.
No, I know, but New Pearl Garden has something to
Yeah,
say.
Jay, your hand is up. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally see your point on that, but I feel I don't think this government is being cynical at all. I feel they're just setting the path in a direction where say a successor comes in, which is definitely going to happen. They have like a blueprint as to this is what you have to do. These are your expectations, and to back it up, I would say that after I'd say like this is the first time in modern India's history that you have a national party like BJP actually take up the issue of the Cholas and bring it to the political mainstream, because there's a lot of discussion that's happening with respect to Rajendra Chola, who had actually invaded the Gangetic Plains and had become successful in that conflict. So the
Wow.
BJP is actually trying to portray him as like this big Hindu leader, as a great Hindu conqueror, a great temple builder, a great Shaivite, whereas the DMK is trying to show him as a great Tamil king, a great Tamil conqueror who taught the North Indians a lesson. So this is I don't see this as political cynicism, because if BJP and Amit Shah and all these people were cynical about it, I don't think they would be playing the Chola card, because this is probably the first time a national level party has actually used it in its outreach, I would say.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a good point. Yeah. Maybe I'm being quick in my dismissal of
Because
them.
I feel there are a lot of successes also that this particular government has done when it comes to the national outreach. Because we were talking about linguistics, right? We'll talk about national outreach. There are a lot of successes in the Northeast. The biggest catastrophe in the Northeast with respect to the BJP's establishment would be Manipur. But I think now, after 2 years of continuous violence, and I think 8 to 9 months of is it 8 to 9 months of president's rule? Raj, how long has it
Roughly,
been?
yeah.
Roughly. So now things have started to like calm down in Manipur as well. Like both the communities have been disarmed quite significantly.
I think today or
Yeah.
yesterday or today there was a major surrender of arms
Yes,
or
yes, yes.
major
From both the
recovery of
sides.
arms in
From both
Manipur.
the
Yeah.
sides. From both the sides. The cookies and the Meithis. So I think their approach towards conflict resolution has also been largely successful. You had JNK coming back to normalcy before the Pahalgam attack. And look at what they've done in Chhattisgarh right now. And the whole Red Corridor has been absolutely annihilated. So I feel that these, like you mentioned, like, the bastions of Mamata Banerjee and the South are something that haven't been breached, but I think it is there in their future agenda as well, because I feel South, specifically with respect to Hinduism, is a very important part for Nagpur, for RSS, and South cannot be separated from the wider idea of Bharatvarsh, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about the RSS is often touted as one of the major reasons for Modi's success and Modi's rise. I've always found that to be a little exaggerated because I think Modi, on account of his own caliber, is an exceptional leader. Whether one might like him or dislike him, his success cannot be denied. And if RSS really was that great an organization, they've been around since 25. How many other leaders have they created? Vajpayee hardly ever had a majority, was not nearly as popular as he is.
Uh, can I go? I think, Ivan, you raise a very valid point. In fact, I do think that, and I think everybody within government and within the larger political framework has some sort of acknowledgement that Modi is very independent, and we keep getting, whether they are confirmed or unconfirmed reports on many pages and magazines like Whisper in the Corridors about some RSS BJP tussle. Even people are saying that the latest issue with the outgoing vice president had something to do with differences in the RSS and the BJP. I'm not in a position to confirm or not confirm that. We are as informed as any of our viewers on this. So, having said that, RSS is much more of like a community building organization, right? They're so much more focused on voluntary service and nation building that I feel like PR and outreach is not their strong suit. And you're absolutely right. Like I think that even in the Vajpayee Advani years, they were not the most populist governments. In fact, they were just an extension of the coalition years, right? And some of our major security failures, like the IC 814, also happened in those years. So they were not like stable governments. Pakistan was emboldened enough to declare war on us in 1999. So that's I look at your adversary engaging you in conflict as an indicator of political instability also, which is why Modi has repeatedly developed a successful policy of claimed deterrence. How effective it is will be a matter of time for us to judge. But the fact that he has a political stability to back, even to this day, which Advani and Vajpayee lacked, even now, despite his alliance partners and everything, he has that much more say in the parliament that he can declare war and still gain larger public support. It is definitely an indicator of some popularity, which I think the Sangh Parivar alone has not enjoyed in any other leader. Ivan, yeah, sorry.
Sorry to switch gears, but do you guys talk culture on this podcast, or is it more strictly political? And okay, well, I
कुछ सब बात करते हैं भाई, सब बात करते हैं यहाँ पे.
culture was a decoy. I just wanted to bring up Saiyaara. hardly, hardly be deemed a culture.
Bro, I was
No, but
thinking about bringing up Saiyaara, bro.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Raj, you've seen it too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So New Pearl Garden did not like it. I liked it for the benefit of the 5 people who were watching this. I'm kidding, guys. I'm sure you get more viewers.
Dude, the last video we did with you had 1,000 views. So
Well, that's gradual, and I mean, I'm a very pessimistic person, so I should shut up. Yes, that's good. Yeah.
that's twice the Kamani auditorium.
Yes, but that's like saying if I get up and sit in 6 different seats in the Kamani auditorium,
Okay,
and you
fair.
count
No,
that
no, no,
as
but
6 different.
no. Your IP address only registers one view.
Really?
Yeah, so it
So
it not.
your total views must be way more than 1,000.
Yeah, so you don't watch the same video over and over and keep registering views. So that's so if 1,000 views have been registered, it's
But
1,000
no, but
different
if
people
I
who
watch
watched.
the same video, let's say 2 months later, YouTube doesn't register that as another view.
No, if it's from if it's from the same account and same IP address, it won't be registered.
Wow, I didn't. It wasn't always like this. They've changed it.
I I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Also, speaking of change, he's gotten rid of his Pulse headset,
Ooh.
PlayStation headphones, and now he's got a black set of headphones. New Pearl Garden. Oh, it's the same.
Yeah.
They look different. But you didn't like Sayara so much. I quite liked it.
I think you know what, if I just look at it as a movie which is like catering to its genre, like an angry young man and ashiki type of flick, then I think it did its job pretty well. I think it ticked all the check marks that were required. I
Yeah.
also feel that this Ahan Pandey guy has a lot of potential. I feel he has the potential of becoming like the next big thing in Bollywood. And the reason why I say that is because I feel, again, I think I was reading your review. He has a lot of that angry young man type of vibe, right? Which is
I got
required.
thinking of Sanjay Dutt.
Yeah, exactly.
His
And
voice, his mannerisms.
also like Ranbir Kapoor to an extent.
Well, Ranveer Kapoor arguably is being derivative of Sanjay Dutt in the
Sanjay Dutt.
first place, right?
Exactly.
I think he still had some Sanju hangover while he was shooting for Animal,
Absolutely.
where the mannerisms came from.
Yeah, and I
I
think
thought the girl was even better than Ahan Pandey.
who?
The girl, the
Oh yeah,
actress.
the girl was pretty good.
Yeah, she was really
But
good.
the shit movie, I didn't like it.
Yeah, dude, the movie had potential. It was a solid one-time watch. I think it wasn't a shit movie. I think you're being a little far-fetched there.
No, bro, I think
So
Ashiki 2 was better.
Ashik 2 was better. To be fair, I don't remember Ashik 2. I saw it when it came out, which was many years, what, 2013 or something? Yeah, it may have been, but that was also tremendously successful.
Yeah,
Uh, I think you know what I think there's two ways to praise or critique a film. You have your sort of tangible, kind of not tangible, but kind of visible characteristics where Sayara has I think, a tight screenplay. There's not many loose stretches. Arguably, I was talking to a friend and she felt that it was almost too quick in the beginning. So the performances were good. I think it was
Mhm.
well shot, which I'm sure Ribhu would have also taken note of, right? It was well shot at times. Uh, the songs were all right. I thought the songs should have been better in a movie which was so music centric. Um, but then I think the trickiest thing about filmmaking or like films is the stuff that the magic, the kind of completely abstract stuff that you can't put your finger on, but you can only feel. I think you can only feel earnestness, but no filmmaker knows how to make an earnest film. And when I'm watching it as an audience member, I don't know what exactly is earnest, but it's a complete feeling. And I thought Sayara was a pretty unpretentious and earnest film at the end of the day, which to me is the one of the most important characteristics.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there, and that's why I said it knew what it was doing. It knew its audience. It knew the people that it was trying to, cater to. A lot of people who made Saiyaara hit are the ones who were probably in their late teens or early 18s when Ashiki 2 came out. And there was a lot of controversy around when will Ashiki 3 come because there was some issue with respect to the name. There was also a lot of people were disappointed in getting Kartik Aaryan in the film and nobody really talked about Saiyaara, And what is really impressive is that it had a very weak marketing campaign, and this is what impressed me the most because there were no reels, nothing on social media. It was just like randomly, suddenly you knew that okay, another Mohit Suri movie is coming, which is about music, and it is about a lover, and we all
Well,
go
this
watch it
was originally the script
for
for
Ashiki
Ash.
3. Yes, of
Yeah.
course. So a lot
the
of people like you know what? Okay, this is legit. We'll go watch this instead of waiting for Kartik Aaryan.
Yeah, I also want to add to this. I think that one thing they did masterfully was that the movie was sort of in touch with the, say, late 19 to early 20s demographic. You see that in the Fahim Abdullah song also. This is one guy who's been giving hits a lot in the last couple of years, and Fahim Abdullah has a lot of followers in that generation. That song Ishq and Ehsaas and all these songs have blown up, especially in that demographic. I hang out with some younger kids, and they'll always play some song by Fahim Abdullah. So maybe I'm overstretching this, but maybe the selection of the singers could be a marketing strategy. And Jay, I disagree with you. I think that a lot of the kids fainting reels in audiences could also have been their marketing team. Because
Yes.
Of course, of
there's
course.
probably some unemployed dude ready to scream if you pay him 5,000 rupees. See, everything
There's
in India somehow comes back to unemployment. तुम उस
Yeah.
तुम उस बंदे को 5,000 रुपए दो, वो फेंट होने की एक्टिंग कर लेगा. मैंने भी
मैं
अपनी एक
खुद कर
वीडियो
लूंगा
बनाई थी. हाँ,
मैं खुद कर लूंगा
सैयारा देखने गया था. आई प्रिटेंडेड टू डू दिस इन द हॉल फॉर अ फ्यू सेकंड्स. हाँ,
but to again add to what Ivan was saying about about being earnest. I remember when I was in the hall, it was me, my wife, it was Ribhu's girlfriend, and we were watching that movie together. I realized that it was just the four of us who were viewing the movie ironically, whereas others were taking the movie quite seriously. In fact, there was this one scene where Han Pandey gets stabbed. Spoiler alert by the girl because she forgets that.
के बाद spoiler alert.
so,
this scene is all over Instagram, by the way.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
so
everyone knows that it's not exactly
so
the sort of movie that loses
वो
anything.
भाई वो बंदी उसको स्टैप करती है भाई पूरा का पूरा हॉल गैस्प करता है and that's when I realized कि what my opinion about this movie does not matter.
I
It does
also
not matter.
gasped, and you laughed in that scene.
Bro, I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's hilarious.
That was
चला
pretty.
जा चला जा यहाँ पे चला जा
No,
चला
because
जा
but
That
उस
scene was a
point
little
पे
intense. That was sad.
बट उस पॉइंट पे उसका हेड स्पेस उस लड़की का वहां पे है कि उसको यही ध्यान आ रहा है कि महेश उसका मंगेतर है.
Hmm.
तो
I
मुझे
just
तो
couldn't
काफी
take it seriously.
कंपेलिंग लगा उसे.
I couldn't take it seriously. I'm sorry.
Well,
I thought,
your
go
type
on.
of yuppies always look down on Indian movies. और
Bro,
same चीज होते तो तुझे हजम कर लेता.
nah, मैं तो भाई बाहर की movies
No,
में
I'm
बहुत
just putting your
hate.
sorry.
But again, that's what I said, Ivan. What I think about it did not matter because the whole fucking audience gasped. क्योंकि मेरे
I'm
जैसी
glad I'm with that audience because to me the most terrifying thing is becoming an out of touch Indian.
yeah, exactly.
Jay is after all those golf course kids, golf course road kids who are
Yeah,
not
yeah.
fully in
You
touch.
are.
You know, this I see
मैं
this in Jay
मैं
a lot.
मैं जलवायु टार में रहता हूँ.
भाई द्वार पता है क्या कर देता है? मैं कोई हम लोग गाड़ी में होते ना, मैं कोई हिंदी गाना नहीं लगा पाता. I can't put any like, and across genres he will object to
He needs
ghazals.
some J. Cole or some hip hop or something.
No,
Yeah,
And
no.
there's the
yeah,
sort of guy, the cop who pulls you over, he'll pretend to be a local. क्या
yeah.
बात हो गई?
ये बात हो गई.
मित्तर
यही रेवेसू. पुलिस वाला बोला
कौन से गांव पर?
रेवेसू.
गोल्फ कोर्स रोड.
भाई तू हिंदी में बात कर ले
नहीं
यार.
मैं गोल्फ कोर्स रोड पे नहीं रहता. मैं वजीराबाद में रहता हूँ.
Damn.
Right.
Jay
असली
said
नाम क्या
this.
था वजीराबाद का?
वजीराबाद का हूँ.
हाँ, किसी मुल्ले के आने से पहले.
Jay said this for his Delhi Dehat friends. कि मैं
वजीराबाद
actually
में.
this whole area was Wazirabad. I think above this is Shakkarpur. Then there are more villages: Dandera, Carterpuri. Carterpuri, interestingly named after Jimmy Carter, because that was one of the
और
villages that
घाटा
was.
घाटा भी तो यहीं पे है.
घाटा गांव थोड़ा आगे है.
वो
So
थोड़ा
that's
आगे तो
वो
शकरपुर
फरीदाबाद.
थोड़ा आगे.
Yaar, Ghata Gaon is what is called. So in NCR there are two Rajesh Pilot malls, right? One is near Khan Market and one is near Golf Course Road extension. So Ghata Gaon is near that road that goes from Nirvana to Golf Course to like Gurgaon Faridabad road. So
तो वो गुजर रहते हैं ना वहाँ पे, इसलिए उसने राजेश पायलट का नाम रखवाया.
हाँ. सही भाई. आई थिंक हमारी काफी डाइवर्स कॉन्वर्सेशन हुई है यार. मजा आ गया.
हाँ, मैं इसका
अभी
टाइटल
तो
लिख दूंगा. वी टॉक अबाउट लिंग्विस्टिक्स, पॉलिटिक्स एंड सैयारा.
सही है ना. सही है भाई. आई थिंक आई विल गो स्लीप नाउ. मेरे को बहुत जल्दी उठना है सुबह.
बट आई
क्या
थिंक
टाइम?
यू नो ये हमारे
11:30 हो गए.
you know, like you say that sometimes our views are jumping up and declining. So lately we haven't been getting our best views. तो हमने अपना ब्रह्मास्त्र निकाला है views बढ़ाने का, which is Ivan, because you
It's
because you
fine, bro.
worked out like a good luck charm last
It's
time.
fine. It's fine. अभी व्यूज तो यार वो तो मिलते रहे. कभी नहीं मिलेंगे. क्या फर्क पड़ता है.
हाँ भाई, मेरा एजेंडा इसमें यही रहा है कि व्यूज की जगह आप एक बॉडी ऑफ पॉलिसी कॉन्वर्सेशंस तैयार कर दो. कोई आपके बारे में जानना भी चाह रहा है, लेकिन जस्ट लाइक अ डायरी, राइट? आई थिंक ऑन दैट नोट.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right,
Thank you
guys.
so much. Thank you so much, Ivan.
Yes.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so much.
joining us, Ivan. Bye,
Yes.
guys.
Bye. See you.
Bye.
I
I'll
will
stop
be
recording.